Holy cow, so freaking pod.
Chapter 13. Hi, everybody.
By the way, we're recording this on a Friday.
Oh, no.
We're gonna get cursed.
We are cursed.
Yes, we're already cursed to do this and read this. Hi, it's Chuuurls, by the way.
And it's me, Cherrydoom.
And it's Chad.
Alright. I believe it's Cherrydoom's turn to read the summary.
Christian and Anna trade emails. Who cares? Anna talks to her stepdad and mom. At work, Anna feels forced to reveal that Christian is her evening date so that Paul will leave her alone. Back at home, Anastasia gets all prettied up and drives to the Heathman for dinner with Christian. They go to a private dining room and discuss Anna's hard limits and problems with the contract. Christian tries to get her to stay the night, but Anna doesn't give in. When she gets home, she has a big ol' emotional breakdown because she wants a relationship and consents that Christian does not.
My really early pet theory that Christian is a telepath is a pet reality, but that's not actually what this pet theory is about. It's a theory about how he got his dollars. And here we go. Here's the quote. I can tell because... Holy shit, he's answering my unspoken question. Comma crime after holy shit. Is he psychic as well? Your body gives you away. You're pressing your thighs together. You're flushed. And your breathing has changed. Oh, this is too much. How do you know about my thighs? My voice is low, disbelieving. They're under the table, for heaven's sake. That's another comic crime. I felt the tablecloth move. And it's a calculated guess based on years of experience. I'm right. No comma, aren't I?
He just knows all the ways that a tablecloth can move from his years of tablecloth moving experience.
That sort of silly trick reminds me of the anime Kaiji, the gambling anime, where they have all these weird techniques to kind of rig games and stuff. The rigger of the game reveals the technique and everybody gets super duper shocked, while the explainer is really smug. So I think that's how Christian got his millions. There's some kind of gambling game about tablecloths, and so he's not an entrepreneur.
Basically, it seems like he's a fake telepath, like either the guy from Psych or the Mentalist.
Cold reading?
He's doing cold reading, like...
I don't know. She's surprised by him saying, I can tell, because...
Yeah, this is the opposite.
Not by his actual...
So yes, it's an inverted one of those cases where they're pretending to be psychic, he's pretending to be a cold reader.
Yeah. Maybe possibly appear a little less creepy. Good luck.
Good luck.
My theory is that Anna is slowly, finally, maybe revealing her true nature. She signs her last email with, "Thank you, Anna," space, and then X. What does the X mean? It's so mysterious. I mean, I'm assuming it means some sort of kiss. I don't know why she would do that. She doesn't seem like the kind of girl to add X's and O's to her emails, but maybe it's because it's her true name, Anna X, an experiment from deep within the earth.
Oh my god.
A secret laboratory.
Maybe she just suddenly hit her rebellious teen phase, so she's adding X to things to make them extreme.
Maybe she's an X-Man whose special power is shattering into pieces and being a blood toilet.
That doesn't sound like very good powers, but I suppose that's better than just being able to see really far.
Maybe she's a Xerox machine.
Okay, mechanics, right?
Yeah, I do not have any pet theories.
Okay, so to start, here's this quote. Oh, this is too much. And in fact, I read that actually just now for my pet theory. But the O, it's letter O, comma, this is too much. I don't know if this was an error only in my little PDF, but...
It's in your PDF and not in the book. In the book it says, okay, comma, this is too much. But I don't think it's an error. I think she's using it in the old, the declarative, oh, listen ye peasants to this tale of my virginity.
Ugh, this is terrible. It's too much. For me, it's too much for me, the reader. You can't do that. Really, I'm glad that they changed it in the book. Anyways, here's the next thing. It's Anastasia's mom. They're on the phone, and this is what she says before they get off the phone. Well, darling, I'll be thinking of you on Tuesday. I love you. You know that, honey? Okay, so you know that, honey. It's just you know that, honey. There's no comma. Like, do you know that honey over there? Like, you know that honey you like? You know that, honey? Like, it should probably be, you know that, comma, honey. As in, I'm calling you, Anastasia, honey. But, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little obtuse. I've seen people write it like that aren't E.L. James, so...
You know, comma, that honey that leaves indents on my wrists.
You know, that honey that leaves indents on my wrists.
Apparently I did have pet theories, and I must have typed them after I put my notes in the doc. I'm sorry.
I want to know what it is.
Okay, well, let's hear what it is.
All right. Okay, pet theory number 1. The entire book is Kate's dying fantasy as her plane to Barbados crashes into the sea. I don't have any reason for thinking this. I just want the book to be an illusion, like someone's...
Like Jacob's Ladder?
Yes, exactly. I just want it to not be real.
I have to get a little bit mad, though, because those theories, like Link was dead all along, or they're in a mental hospital, stop.
But this isn't Anna's dying fantasy. It's Kate's dying fantasy.
I don't care. It's still somebody's dying fantasy.
The thing Kate wanted most of all is for Anna to finally lose her virginity.
And then she was like, but that's just boring. Let's spice it up a little.
Let's spice it up by adding 3 more books.
It's sort of like how some ladies would rather read fan fiction than actually have sex. So, in this instance, instead of, the classic finding someone to have sex with on the plane, she's just fantasizing about someone else having sex.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, it seems a lot less effort. Yeah, I personally, I don't like these sorts of plot twists either, depending, once or twice, if it's done really well, and then, of course, the first time it was ever done, it was probably great. Okay, theory number 2. Continuing the Christian is really a man-child goon baby theory. Anna actually meets Christian, at a Chuck E. Cheese. They don't really go to the Heathman. And their private room is really a ball pit. He'd rented out the entire Chuck E. Cheese and reserved... this ball pit room with whatever money, little money Christian actually has. And, rather than having oysters, which you have raw, which is what they're doing here, they're actually eating bad supermarket sushi, which Christian purchased on his way to the Chuck E. Cheese. And it was just brought out by the Chuck E. Cheese staff because he paid them to do it. He gave them, a tip. And then they had, a large cheese pizza.
I can tell because your pizza gives you away.
Yeah, exactly.
He felt the balls moving.
I felt the balls move.
I felt the balls moving. My years of experience in the ball pit tells me you're extremely turned on right now. And so, okay, at the end of their date, when Christian is, horrified by Anna's car, he's not actually, flabbergasted by her car. He's like, whoa, you've got a car. I don't have a car. Anna's just imagining, oh, he hates my car, because she's imagining him just being super rich and everything.
Can this thing really go? He just doesn't understand because he doesn't know how to drive. All right, back onto mechanics. I'm not going to cite a specific example for my next example. But when they're in the restaurant talking about the contract and stuff, the dialogue is really hard to read because of all the paragraph break nonsense. I'm sure I might not be 100% in the right here, but just the way that you break up paragraphs when there's dialogue, you shouldn't break the paragraph until the next person is speaking. You shouldn't do it before that because then it's who's talking?
Right.
Yeah, so I hated that.
I agree with you. And part of the reason I think that she has such a problem with it is because she throws in so many unnecessary details and so much inner voice stuff by Anna.
You can throw in those things, just not break the paragraph.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but sometimes she'll just have an entire paragraph of that, and then the next Christian's next line of dialogue. So then she'll just break it into a new paragraph, and it looks bad.
It looks and feels bad, yes.
Basically, she should break up the description rather than the dialogue.
Agreed. Quote, because I want all your pleasure. His voice is husky but determined. That's the end of the quote. Because I want all your pleasure, comma. His voice is husky, comma, but determined. Period. When you end a sentence that is being spoken with a comma, you usually say he says, his voice husky, or something like that. It's weird to cut off and not have a period there. So I made these 2 revisions. Because I want all your pleasure, period. His voice is husky, comma, but determined. And then there's this alternative, which is, because I want all your pleasure, comma, he purrs, his voice husky but determined. That's all I have.
I'm trying to imagine what Christian's husky but determined purring voice sounds like.
Okay, Christian's going on about how he's a dom and he needs mission. He says, you have to accept that unwillingly. May not be incorrect, but it sort of seems like... Okay, if you're saying you have to accept that and my smelly socks, that would be correct with no comma. But if you're saying you have to accept that and willingly, that does need a comma because it's a different thing. It's not too...
Isn't that an adverb?
Technically, what she's doing there, I think, is a form of ellipsis where she's basically started a new clause using and as a conjunction rather than joining 2 different nouns like Cherrydoom was talking about. Rather than saying you have to accept that and you have to accept that willingly, she's saying you have to accept that and willingly, so a comma is definitely needed.
It almost sounds like it could be English to me.
No, I think I think she just wrote it badly.
Sorry, I mean British. So it just sounds like a different dialect, but then it could be that it's so dumb that it sounds like a different dialect. I don't know.
So are you saying that other dialects sound dumb to you?
They just sound different. You could say that something is so stupid that it sounds like it could be in a way that you don't understand. That's the common denominator is that you don't understand both the stupid thing and the other dialect. I'm not. Don't do that. So, Chad, it looked like you didn't have anything, so let's just bulldoze right on through to Americants. I have a reading here, but maybe I don't want to do it because it's so fucking annoying. Does anybody want to read this with me? And
Sure. I'll be, Christian. You're first, Chad.
Well, I can ask you what you thought of the weather today.
he smiles, and his long fingers reach down to collect an olive. He pops it in his mouth, and my eyes linger on his mouth. That mouth that's been on me. All parts of me. I flush.
I thought the weather was particularly unexceptional today, he smirks.
Are you smirking at me, Mr. Gray?
I am, Miss Steele.
You know this contract is legally unenforceable.
I'm fully aware of that, Miss Steele.
This is really bad! That's the end of the quote, by the way. Like, Mr. Darcy, what did you think? I thought it was unexceptional. Are you smiling? I am. I mean, it's just so, do I even have to say anything here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
She has this weird idea about the dialogue that she wants. Somewhere between, like, the Pride and Prejudice, like you were just saying, like, cleverness, and then also, like, old-timey 40s, 50s screwball comedy, like, banter.
I think that it's not supposed to sound like 40s, 50s, but she makes it sound like that.
She wants the pacing of those sorts of things.
Sure, yes.
She wants it crackling back and forth.
She ruins the pacing because that one part where I had to narrate was like, broke up the action.
I didn't say she did it well.
No. I just wanted to point it out for our listeners. Hi, listeners.
So, like, an interesting thing about that dialogue, the point of that dialogue, do you guys know from when they made movies that way?
Done what way?
When they had character, like a man and a woman, back and forthing like that, like bantering like that?
Was it for romantic tension? I have no idea.
Well, it was supposed to stand in for true flirtation and, like, sex, because they couldn't put sex in movies.
Oh,
so,
okay.
like, rather than having them, like, have a bedroom scene or imply the sex, they just had that to stand in for that. It was a Hollywood thing. So, like, in a book like this, where the sex is just explicit, is really silly. It really comes off as, like, as forced. Because, one, she can't write dialogue, and two, it doesn't fulfill the same purpose. It's just, like, banter.
I've complained many times about they've already had sex and she still acts and talks a certain way, and I think that's crazy. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, so she calls Ray, and she has to keep it short because he's about to watch a soccer game.
Wait, should we say who Ray is? Did we ever say? Ray is her stepdad.
We commented on, like, the fact that he was a soccer fan, which was, I mean, that's fine, I'm sure, but it's probably pretty rare for, like, a blue-collar
Old dude, yeah.
dude to be a fan of the Sounders. I don't know if that's Portland or Seattle's team. I've never heard of it, and I'm wondering, like, is he at the game? And is he if he's about to watch it, it sounds more like he's watching it on TV, and in that case, who is televising this, like, regional soccer game?
I think it's on TV, and I think it's gotta be like a local channel.
Local channels don't usually televise games, do they? Like, they like have highlights on the news.
Yeah, highlights alone. I mean, sometimes you get like high school football games.
It'd have to be like public access or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe the one, like, frivolity that he splurged on is he got, like, some expensive sports package just so he can watch his favorite soccer team.
Maybe that's true.
Perhaps. I think what we're all really trying to say is that he should probably be watching football, not soccer.
I think it's probably the Seattle team, if they're called the Sounders.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, God, that's BDSM in itself. Anyway, I looked in the original fiction to see if it was called, like, footy or something instead of soccer, but no, it just says that he's about to watch.
She doesn't know what crazy sports we have over here in the Americas.
Before she did some research and rewrote the book a little bit.
A rousing game of Quidditch.
She thought of two sports, and she's like, do they have them over there? I just won't include it. She's like, rugby? Football?
Alright, Chad?
Yes. On page 229, Anna is talking about how she wants a normal relationship with a Christian she's internally monologuing about this. She's like, if I do this thing, will he be my boyfriend? Will I be able to introduce him to my friends, go out to bars, the cinema? That's the thing that really caught my eye, was go to the cinema. Because in the U.S.
Yeah, we like to say.
Yeah, we don't usually say cinema for movie theater.
Yeah, go to the movies.
Yep. Go to the movies, go to the movie theater, go see a movie. That's usually what we say.
Go to the drive-in.
Hop on down to the sock hop.
With my steady Betty.
The talkie.
On the same page, she does the I've thing again. I know I've not had these things in the past.
There was a lot of that in this chapter.
Yeah, she did it 3 or 4 times.
I noticed Christian said it a bunch. Where it's strange that they where, I talked about this before about the placement of the apostrophe and how that changes the way it sounds so much.
I just had a realization, which is that if you're speaking an American dialect, you can use I've, but you probably use it for a positive thing, like I've done it already. You wouldn't say I've not done it already.
Yeah, that's true.
The way that Christian's dialogue tends to be written, it's really hard not to read it with a British-sounding like voice, I think. Some sort of a British accent. Like, he just always sounds very British to me.
Do we think that this could be a way to make him sound hoity-toity without making him actually have an English accent? Like, if he's just saying these things in an American accent, does it make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying.
I wasn't very clear, was I?
So you're saying he's like Gatsbying this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think that's partially true. And then the rest of it is an artifact of her inability to write.
All right, should we move it on?
Yep.
Move this choo-choo train? All right, so wording. I only had one, because you guys had a lot. Good job. Here we go. My mom is oozing contrition, just desperately sorry not to make my graduation. My oozy mom. She's just oozing. It's just a weird way to say that somebody's sorry. Oozing contrition.
I can sort of see if they want to make it sound like it's a gross, like, disingenuous type of thing. But I don't think that's what's going on.
I don't think that's what she meant to do. My oozy mom.
Me and Chad both mentioned that Anna, she refers to the computer twice as, quote, the mean machine. When she uses it, like, she's turning on the mean machine. And I hate it so much. It makes me really mad. It makes me think of a thing a mom would say.
The only way it could be worse is if she called it the mean green machine. Mean green typing machine. Like, yeah, it's just...
Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I love that game. I beat that game.
That's the only game she plays on it. Did you have more to say about it, Chad?
No, I just think it's really hilarious. First of all, can we discern at all why she would call it that?
Because it's so fancy?
I guess. I mean, that's the only thing... That's the only thing I could think of. That it's like a...
I mean, like, if there's like a hot car, an old person might say, that's a real mean machine.
Yeah.
Anna, she says that she mentally girds her loins before she steps in the hotel to go meet Christian, which is not an attractive phrase.
What does it really mean to gird your loins?
I mean, it just means to, like, sort of hitch up your pants. Let's do this, sister. Let's get this done. Let's brace yourself.
I think it's sexual.
No, it's not. The thing is that it sounds sexual. I mean, maybe that's supposed to be that double entendre. Like, I gotta gird my loins because it's gonna try to get in them.
That's what it sounds like. It just means to belt up your nonsense, basically. All right.
Yeah.
I had this too, and the fact that she mentally girds her loins, and if she's speaking in a British English dialect, means that she's insanely doing it, like, ah! Yeah, it doesn't quite fit.
Okay, to read this whole sentence because it's so ridiculous. I move forward, aware that I, Anastasia of Clumsyville, am in high stilettos. So now we finally know Anna's true origin. She's from Clumsyville.
Clumsyville. Is that like Lazy Town?
So what's Clumsyville like? Is, like, everything broken all the time? Are people constantly tripping? Or is everything super safe because they don't want anybody to trip because they're all so clumsy?
I was thinking super safe.
Nobody leaves their house.
Every house is a padded house, and then a weird buff guy comes to town who's really coordinated and tries to teach people to be coordinated.
But he fails horribly.
No, he learns to be clumsy and embrace it himself.
Right.
And see that not everybody needs to change, and sometimes you just need to have a different perspective.
That's not what happens in Lazy.
But wait, doesn't he change himself? If he's learning to accept clumsiness, he's changed himself. And that's not really the message.
No.
I'm sorry. Maybe that's her secret power. Like, she comes from Clumsyville, but she's only occasionally clumsy. Because so far she's only been clumsy the one time, and then she's mentioned that she's clumsy continuously.
I just keep thinking to myself, if the power is detrimental, is it really a superpower? Isn't it a not-so-superpower? If you have, like... What if your superpower is that you feel pain 24/7?
It's not really a power.
Exactly.
This gets back into, like, a thing I talked about with people I knew back in college. Mundane superpowers, where, for example, like, the ability to always parallel park your car with no problem, something like that.
Isn't that more like a talent than a superpower?
Well, you can do it without effort. It's a power.
Oh, I see.
To always fill out your taxes correctly, but only your taxes.
So is she like their Superman, then?
Maybe.
Sent here to Earth to bestow her powers of clumsiness on the world.
Maybe there's, like, clumsiness kryptonite where she comes from, and then when she leaves there, her clumsy powers activate. Because that was the story with
Right.
Kryptonite and Krypton.
Well, actually, it's because of the yellow sun.
Yeah.
Oh, oops. Oops.
Anyway, sorry. Let's move on.
Anna says that she could, quote, learn to like oysters. But it sounds like she already likes them. She's been eating them, and she's like,
Yeah.
these are all salt and flesh and disgusting gross shit that she likes for some reason.
It's almost like an analogy to her feelings with BDSM.
Or a penis.
Whoa, yeah, that's true. I was thinking more semen, though, because
Oh, that's, yeah.
he's all like, oh, you haven't got any trouble swallowing, which is rude.
She wasn't sure about it, though. Oh yeah, it slips down my throat, all seawater, salt, and the sharp tang of citrus and fleshiness. It's all seawater, salt. Ooh, I lick my lips. Ugh.
Ugh.
And then, finally, Christian says that he wants to peel her out of her dress, and then she thinks, oh my, he wants to peel me out of Kate's dress. And like, why is she thinking about the fact that it's Kate's dress right now?
She has a Kate's clothing fetish. She just likes wearing Kate's clothes.
Maybe.
You peel out of them. Yeah.
Alright, that's it for me.
Okay, it's time for chat.
Okay. So Anna's mom, when they're talking on the phone, just every sentence. Actually, there's one sentence where she doesn't use a term of endearment, but pretty much every other one she says like darling, honey, baby. Aside from the fact that it's being that repetitive is bad. It just sounds really contrived, really forced. I don't know. Like it sounds insincere. And I don't know if it's because her mom's insincere. She's like, oh darling, oh honey, I'm really thinking of you, baby. She throws it around the same way that like she does the usage of names in the book, where like Anna and Christian refer to each other by name every sentence, basically.
That reminded me of a real life thing that's gross, which is that I used to know somebody who would call all women, no exceptions, babe at the end of his sentences.
Ugh.
Hey,
Ugh.
babe. Well, we can hang out tomorrow, babe.
So on page 208, Anna says, there's an email from Christian from late last night or very early this morning, depending on your point of view. Okay.
All right.
Well, why? Who gives a shit? Like, thank you, E.L. James, for pointing out a thing.
Well, do you think that she should have just included the timestamp and let the reader think, oh, that could have been late last night or very early that morning?
Or she could have just picked one.
Okay.
She could have just said, there's an email from Christian from late last night, or there's an email from Christian from early this morning, and then just left it at that.
What about late last night? Or is it early this morning?
I think what she's trying to say is that either Christian stayed up late or he woke up early, and she doesn't know which one it is. Even though it's like 1 a.m., so that's clearly nighttime. Okay, I have problems with this because I work night shift. I work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I am even though I've been at this job for like almost 2 years, like I'm constantly confused. If we say, because I work over midnight, if someone says we're doing this on Wednesday, I'm not sure if they mean the Wednesday from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. or the Wednesday from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah, that's confusing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does depend on your point of view.
Well, oh yeah, I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying that its inclusion was completely unnecessary.
It may be.
Yeah, I guess so.
Just like this whole sentence, like, and especially the way the sentence is written, like she also could have just left it. There's an email from Christian from late last night or very early this morning.
Oh, you're saying that depending on your point of view is kind of a dumb addition. And yeah, I think I am inclined to agree with that because it already makes sense.
Okay, so page 214, Kate says to Anna, when Anna's preparing for her Heathman date, boy, you scrub up well, Anna. And it just is, like, sounds so terrible to me. It's up there with, like, her mom's dialogue and the dialogue that we did for the reading earlier, where it's just, it sounds so inauthentic, and no one talks this way.
I'm wondering if that's a British, because the American expression would be, you clean up nice, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the same thing, but just with different words.
It's also dorky, but it sounds less dumb.
What does?
Clean up nice. Boy, you clean up nice. Like that, okay, that rolls off the tongue. Boy, you scrub up well, Anna. It's a little, not much.
Yeah, but, like, I think either between clean up well or scrub up well, and I agree, like, in American English, we'd probably say clean up. The boy, like, interjection there at the beginning, that...
Yeah.
Boy!
Kate, being a 21-year-old college student, would not say that shit. And then, like, most of the time, you wouldn't say the person's name at the end. I mean, you would sometimes, but I think if you were just, like, talking to your friend, you'd be like, you clean up well, like, after you see them.
Or you could say, instead of boy, you could say, dude!
You clean up well, babe.
You clean up well, babe.
I mean, I think it's just, more of them saying each other's names constantly in this book.
Anna, Kate, Anna. Kate, Christian.
So on the same page, 214, Anna uses askance, which is fine and a good word choice. However, Anastasia's vocabulary is otherwise so limited that it really sticks out to me.
Sometimes she'll pull out, like, a huge word out of nowhere, like profligate.
That's the point. Like, if she is going to do that, she should probably be more consistent about it. Like, it's,
I agree.
Because otherwise it really seems, like, out of place.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, then it seems like you're writing a specific style. It's cohered into a specific set of words or level of reading, and then throwing something like you said, profligate or askance, or where your reader has like prepared themselves for a particular level, and then now they suddenly have to grab a dictionary.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree, and I just had to look up profligate because I guessed what it meant, and then I felt really insecure. My guess was too much, and then I looked at it. It just means extravagantly too much. So that's basically right, sort of. Yeah, askance. I was thinking, I don't know why I suddenly thought of the word widdershins, but it's like if she suddenly said, I looked around widdershins at Kate, which is counterclockwise.
Oh.
It's just, it's from like an old German word. But anyways, my point is, it does stick out badly. Well, I guess they don't need to figure it out because this book has been published and is very successful.
By the way, I think Widdershins might be the name of a gay romance novel.
Time for a new podcast.
Widdershins gay romance. I typed into Google, shuddering with pleasure. Just kidding.
Excuse me, Chuuurls, but always start with Wikipedia.
Alright, I'll go to Wikipedia instead. Wikipedia.org. Widdershins gay romance. I typed into Wikipedia. An hour later, I was so shocked because there actually was not an article about Widdershins gay romance. Thanks a lot, Chad.
I couldn't believe what I'd learned, which was nothing.
It's Widdershins by Jordan L. Hawk. I've seen this book before in my constant search for a quality gay romance novel. Repressed scholar Percival Endicott Wyborn has two skills: reading dead languages and hiding in his office at the Ladysmith Museum. After the tragic death of a friend he secretly loved, he ruthlessly suppressed any desires for another man. So when a handsome ex-Pinkerton, oh my god, this sounds so great, Griffin of Flaherty, approaches him to translate a mysterious book, Wyborn wants to finish the job and get rid of the detective as quickly as possible. Griffin left the Pinkertons following the death of his partner, hoping to start a new life, but the powerful cult which murdered Glenn has taken root in Widdershins, and the only spells in the book can stop them. Spells the intellectual Wyborn doesn't believe are real. As the investigation draws the two men closer, Griffin's rakish charm threatens to shatter Wyborn's iron control. When the cult resurrects an evil sorcerer... Oh my god, I'm gonna buy this. I'm buying it right now.
Can Wyborn overcome his fear and learn to trust? Will Griffin let go of his past and risk falling in love? Or will Griffin's secrets cost Wyborn both his heart and his life? This is so great. Well, there's a novel recommendation. If you want to read a romance novel with spooky sorcerers and monsters and some gay love, read Widdershins by Jordan L. Hawk. We're on to page 215 with Chad's notes.
If you'd like to actually just know more about the word Widdershins, consult the dictionary.
Always do Wikipedia first.
Well, that's if you're using the internet, but you could just get a real book. Unfortunately, every time you go to a dictionary these days, it's just hauled out and full of guns. It's all anyone uses their dictionaries for anymore. Gun storage. Okay, so on page 215, him? Nervous? Never. It's just so cliche. God, and it's so old-timey. The end.
It's gross.
Page 217, she uses nitty-gritty. Specifically, Christian uses nitty-gritty, where he says to Anna, like, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, or something like that when they're about to discuss the contract. First of all, I just hate that phrase. I just don't like
Me too.
nitty-gritty.
Why don't you like it?
I don't know.
It's dumb.
Why don't you guys like it?
Do you like it?
No, I think it sounds nerdy, but I want to know why you don't like it.
I don't like cutesy phrases like that, even though I say things like chicky fry steak.
That's adorable!
I don't know, I just don't like cutesy little phrases like that.
The only cutesy phrase that I have memory of liking is sweaty spaghetti.
What?
Well, when you get sweaty, it's sweaty spaghetti.
Ew.
I'm sorry. It is gross because I sat here reading these notes late at night last night, and thought, wow, nitty-gritty is gross. Because, like, what is it? Knits and grits. Gross.
That is gross.
Yeah, aside from the grossness, I just, aesthetically, I don't like it. I find it displeasing to my ear. And I doubt Christian would use it, but, like, the way that E.L. James has written a lot of his dialogue, he uses really silly shit that I don't think someone his age and his, like, his social status level would probably use, considering the schools he's probably gone to.
I don't think because his academics were really bad up until a certain point.
Yeah, but he's rich.
He has said a couple other things like this that seemed out of place that I've noticed throughout the book, and it's just off.
I bet it's just writer voice leaking through.
Yeah, it's almost certainly what it is. Like, I'm not trying to read into it more. That's why I think it's so bad. If he did this more consistently and it seemed more in line with his character, whatever.
Meh.
Okay, so same page. Anna's describing the table in the private room that Christian is reserved. The table is all starched linen, crystal glasses, silver cutlery, and a white rose bouquet. So I just sort of thought of a table just entirely made out of those things. Either made out, or just like had glued them all together to make a table, or they like encased them all in acrylic glass and they're just in the table.
Is this the second time this chapter that something was all something?
I think so, yeah. And then later there's the oysters.
Shouldn't she said the table is covered in all these things?
Yes. And then lastly, page 218. He fishes into his inside jacket pocket and pulls out a piece of paper. That sentence is incredibly ineloquent and extremely cumbersome. Like, she didn't really need to explicitly say inside jacket pocket. Like, she could have just said he fishes inside his jacket. Obviously, he's reaching into his jacket pocket. He's not reaching into his sleeve to pull this thing out.
I'm now obsessed with this sentence since you read it, because it has a really weird, you can force it into this really weird cadence. Like, he fishes into his inside jacket pocket and pulls out a piece of paper. Like, and some of her other sentences are like this too. I wonder if that's... Do you ever have, like, strange thoughts?
No, never. Podcast over.
Podcast over. Sometimes when you think, let's say when you're writing, you will end up with these very strange phrases that have, like, a weird rhythm or musicality to them, and I think that this happens to E.L. James a lot. Okay, end of my sentence. All right.
I mean, is it mainly the problem that it says in... like twice in the space of 3 words into his inside? Yeah, that's really bad.
It has to do with the syllables. Like, it's the meter.
Yeah.
It's just classic English major stuff.
Could she not have said his breast pocket? Isn't that what that is? Like, you know, the proverbial dude.
Isn't breast pocket on the outside, though?
Yeah.
I believe so, like where you would put a kerchief square.
Oh, yeah,
square.
You're right. There has to be a name for that pocket.
There probably is.
I don't think there is.
I mean, it's probably just like a specific, like, tailor phrase, not in common parlance. But, like, seriously, just saying, like, he reaches into his jacket, using things you already know about the world, you could probably figure out where he's reaching.
If you have a giant book like this, do you have to give every single sentence this much careful scrutiny as an editor? I mean, maybe, yes.
That's
like,
their entire job.
You have to, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that's why it wouldn't be super easy.
Yes, correct.
Never mind.
I think part of the problem with the editing for this book is that it was just pushed out, too, because they just wanted to publish it.
I think that you said something in an earlier episode, which is that they could not edit it feasibly without changing the whole entire book, and that just was not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that they would have, if once they started really editing, like we're doing some of the time, it just changes everything, like to the point where it probably wouldn't be E.L. James's words, and then maybe E.L. James didn't want it edited that heavily, like maybe they tried, and she's like, no.
It's very likely that she said no, because the way that apparently the tabloids are saying that she's being in the movie with the director who wants to change things, she's like, no, don't change anything. So if she was like that with the book, then yeah, of course, it makes sense why it turned out this way.
All right, and that's all.
So now it's time for situational things. I have a couple things. Let me say to you these things. If there's any doubt in your minds, listeners and Chad, about the contract, Christian explains that it's not legally binding, and then he goes on to say this quote, Anastasia, it doesn't matter if it's legal or not. It represents an arrangement that I would like to make with you. What I would like from you, and what you can expect from me. If you don't like it, then don't sign. If you do sign, and then decide you don't like it, there are enough get-out clauses so you can walk away. Even if it were legally binding, do you think I'd drag you through the courts if you did decide to run? And honestly, that last thing kind of sounds like a veiled threat. But anyways, the point is, it's not legally binding. It's just the spirit of the relationship.
I have to make a comment on this. It's extremely underhanded of him to hand somebody a contract that's not legally binding, but not say that. Because, like, even Anna was like, there's no way this is legally binding. So she had to ask him. So.
I mean, I understood that it wasn't.
I mean, she didn't, though, until she researched it.
She's never done any of this. That's my point. Like, I didn't realize it wasn't legally binding, even though it couldn't be legally binding, but...
But Chad, you are Anastasia.
But see, that's exactly my point. Like, he's this rich multimillionaire handing somebody a contract. Why would they assume that it's not legally binding?
Yeah, he probably should have said something, I guess. But by that token, she too probably should have said something when she first got the contract, instead of just saying, I'll sign it. Or rather, she did that with the NDA.
She's sort of dumb. She sort of was like, I'm going to sign this NDA. What's an NDA? I'll have to look that up later.
Whereas the Christian came to you and you said, is this like a real contract? He probably would have said, no, Chad, it's not a real contract. And then you would have sorted it out, like, you know, before you had a sexy dinner together. Or something.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, I don't know. I'd probably try to get the dinner out of it anyway.
I understand. I feel the same. In response to something that you, Chad, said about Christian possibly going after virgins or Anna clones, because we thought that, based on the way that the contract is, that he did this. I don't remember. Here's a quote. Did you have similar discussions with, the 15? No, says Christian. Why not, says Anastasia. Because they were all established submissives. They knew what they wanted out of a relationship with me, and generally what I expected. With them, it was a question of fine-tuning the soft limits, details like that. Which is a weird sentence. So he's not quite as horrible as we would have guessed. He's not only going after little babies who've never done BDSM before. That's why the contract is the way it is. It makes a lot more sense now, because it's like, I'm the dom, blah, blah, blah. And like, maybe there's the contract fetish for both the sub that he's dealing with and himself in that case. He's powerful. Yeah, and I just also wanted to say that we shouldn't criticize Christian Anna too much down to burning stumps, because they have desires which people have. Yes, I understand that they don't go about them in the correct way. It's a twisted caricature, but that is nonetheless based on a real thing. So we shouldn't be like necessarily like, oh, like I bet he's a terrible rapist. Yeah, maybe he is, but we need to make the distinction that it's this character, not like all the things that he likes and that he's doing. Just the way he goes about it. Okay, the concept of suspension, like the sexy thing, just tying up with rope, freaks Anastasia out, and she makes it a hard limit. It's not even the hook in the skin kind. That's what would freak me out a little bit. But I don't think there's anything inherently terrifying about being hung from the ceiling with a rope, unless you want to die.
I have several stories. So I went to it was a rope convention, basically. And one of the nights I saw someone, like, being hung, like, basically it was like a big hammock of ropes. It looked really fun and cool, and I was like, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. And so I wanted to be suspended, but I'd never been suspended before, and, like, the person I wanted to do it was, like, they wanted, an emotional connection with the people they suspended, and stuff like that. And so she would only do, like, a partial suspension where, like, one of my knees was on the floor, and the rest of me was held up by the chest. It was really painful. Basically, the fewer ropes that are holding you, the more painful it is, because there are less points of support. Yeah. So it wasn't fun at all. I didn't like it. The other thing is that once I went to another rope convention. Actually, it was the same one, I think, but they were doing like a seminar, a demonstration type thing, and this guy was like, okay, I only do this once a year because it's so painful. And it was basically, he just like wrapped a single rope around the sub's waist and then lifted her by that. And like, because it was just one, it was like really, really, really bad, and it looked really bad. So it can be pretty scary.
The thing I was imagining was that you have multiple ropes, because I know, logically speaking, that would not hurt. So just like being suspended, okay, whatever.
I mean, it depends. I mean, if you are being supported by your own weight, I mean, if like it's your own weight pulling on the ropes, then it can be painful, even if there are a lot of ropes. Probably not for you.
Not for me personally. I was about to say that, but I didn't want to like rub it in that I'm a tiny baby. Abusing my small privilege.
You're very little privilege, the little privilege that you have.
Oh my god, stop it. Too far, Chad. Too far. No, I'm kidding. Alright, so here's another quote about how Christian was not intended to be insane. Quote, We'll build up to various scenarios. I want you to trust me, but I know I have to earn your trust, and I will. So, like, I mean, that's something that's fairly straightforward. That is something you would say to your partner. That's sane. Just wanted to point that out, that one time he didn't say a crazy thing. But then, do you trust me? He asks her. Yes, I do, Anastasia responds spontaneously, not thinking, because it's true. I do trust him. You don't, Anastasia, you piece of shit. At one point, I don't have the quote, but she basically says, like, he says, like, what are you afraid of? Being hurt by you? Physically? Yes. And then she thinks to herself, and emotionally. She doesn't say it. Like, that's, I mean, what kind of trust is that?
I was thinking that too. I was like, why didn't she say that? That's clearly a problem.
Yeah, and that's not really what I think of when I think of trust. And she clearly has a long way to go. She doesn't even want to sign this fucking contract. So enough of that bullshit romance talk. Right after they have this little conversation, Anastasia asks, is there a store you go to? Submissives are us. Christian laughs. Not exactly. So, but what are we thinking? Are we thinking he goes on FetLife, or does he have like a private club he goes to? Because I think that the club would be too dangerous for his publicity, given that he's like this, fancy figure or whatever.
For some reason, I assumed that he went to like fancy underground rich people BDSM parties and he wore a mask.
Yeah, I was thinking that also, but I still think it would be too easy to figure out. Like, I mean...
Yeah, probably. I mean, those sexy masquerade masks don't really do much.
He's like a robber baron capitalist, and I don't think that's easy to hide if everybody knows about you.
Maybe he has an assistant that does this for him and just brings him people.
You think Taylor does it?
Maybe.
Gross. There's an obscenely rich guy I've met, and he wants some kind of strange, kinky sexual relationship in which I don't get to say things. This is a quote from Anastasia, thinking a thing that she doesn't want to tell her mother. This made me really mad. She says she doesn't get to say things, but there's a whole contract in which she's allowed to edit with him and compromise. And, like, you don't have to say yes to stuff. You could just stop seeing him. I really hate this shit. And it's in, like, strange, kinky sexual relationship. Like, please get over it, please. It's just sexual expression, please. Please.com. Next, it's about her car. Quote, I have to drive in my bare feet. Wanda, my sea blue beetle, wasn't built to be driven by stiletto wearers. She's named her car Wanda. I've only known insane people who were bad drivers to name their cars, and furthermore, refer to it with a pronoun like, oh, she's scared right now. Wanda's scared. I know somebody who did this. It was my sister's friend's mother. God damn it. She had like a weird Honda 4Runner, did they call it? Yeah, a white Honda 4Runner. And I swear to God, it was named Mitzi. Referred to with she.
Well, what about when people refer to boats as she?
Yeah, well, it's a boat, not a car, so that's fine. But, okay, so I do have an exception to this, so if you have named your car, don't get upset. If you refer to the car in the abstract with a funny or punny nickname, and you don't give it a gendered pronoun, then it's okay.
Like goose?
Or, like, driving the goose. Or, like, let's get in the goose. And then you say, oh no, my car is breaking down, if it is breaking down. Not like, the goose is having a crash landing! There's a difference.
Oh, I thought you meant a non-gendered name.
Oh, no. I mean, like, you don't call it she or he, or, God forbid, she or they.
Hey, maybe the car is trans.
Maybe
Anyway.
the car is trans. Maybe the transition is...
What? Hang on. I have named my car. Its name is Persephone.
That's kind of cute. But you don't say Persephone's feeling bad
no,
today.
I only remember that, like, once a year that I've named it.
You remember, like, once a year, the sticker where you wrote the name is fading, and you're like, oh, gotta rewrite the name in fresh pen. Persephone.
Okay, to close this off, Anna is doing one thing right by driving it without her heels on. That is a big mistake. Don't. Your heel's gonna get caught under the fucking pedal, and then you're gonna die.
Wait, what?
Okay, so when you drive a car, don't drive it with stilettos. You can probably do it. You can probably get away with normal
Right,
high
she's
heels.
not.
I mean, that's my point. She's doing it right by not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's driving in her bare feet. But if you do, it's not gonna end well. It's my Chuuurls warning.
Nope, I've tried it. It was not.
Yeah, I have also tried it, and I pulled over, and I took off my shoes because I was nervous.
If you have to drive and you have heels, just take like a backup pair of shoes to drive in.
Bare feet is not bad also, except if that grosses you out.
Bare feet is not ideal for reasons.
Or just get like a sock.
Yeah, I guess. Just like sandals or something.
I mean, the point is that you get a good feel for what you're doing to the car. Anyways, next quote. The waiter pulls out my chair and I sit. He places my napkin in my lap. The waiter puts the napkin in her lap. I was just, when I read that, I was like, no way. I mean, is that my lack of class? Is that standard? Like, is that something they do?
I don't think so. Definitely not. Unless this is a really super fancy restaurant where
it's just the Heathman. It's just the Heathman.
I don't know, honestly. I think that this is against standard. Like, you just don't want someone in your space, period. So, like...
Like, would Sir like his lobster bib and just, like, tie it on? Like, I mean, maybe he doesn't trust Anastasia to do it herself, which is even funnier. Because you know how, like, some waiters, like, they disdain you so much, like, if you don't wear a suit jacket or whatever to a place, and they're like, ugh, get over here, stupid. Like, maybe it was one of those things. Like, she didn't understand that you have to put the napkin in the lap, so he put it in there for her. on her girded loins, he put the napkin. Okay, so the last thing I have to say is, during the end of their little date, there's this false sense of peril. For instance, the quote I picked was, "I don't know if I'll ever kiss him again." And they bring it up a couple times. It's just like, oh, if I say no to the contract, like, he's not gonna hang out with me. And, oh, boo-hoo, maybe this is our last kiss, maybe this is our last hug. Like, I mean, there's no indication they wouldn't continue to have vanilla sex, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, hasn't he said, like, it's this contract or nothing several times? Yeah, several times. He's like, this is the only way I can do it.
I mean, do we really believe that? I don't believe that.
I mean, he's obviously willing to make concessions, but I don't know, like, you know, why he can't, just keep doing this if he, like, has to have Anna or whatever.
I feel like he didn't start out saying that. I feel like he was first like, hey, I like this. And then he showed her the contract, and then he was like, okay, well, now you have to do this. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and check. But I don't know.
I think he seems pretty committed to the idea of, like, this or nothing. Because, like, he's constantly trying to get her to sign the contract. It's not like he's like, okay, I'll do this relationship with you at this point without all the BDSM stuff, without the contract. He's never said, like, okay, I'll try this other thing. He's always just
it's been good enough for them to just have sex. Well, maybe not good enough, but I mean, they seem to both be okay with it.
I don't know. Anna doesn't seem that okay with it.
Yeah, okay, I guess. but of course, I mean, the sense of, like, I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Like, come on, please. There's, like, a whole fucking book left.
She doesn't know that.
Yeah, well, we do. Meta reading readers here.
Anna's conversation with her mother is extremely bizarre. I would like to do a reading.
Okay.
Anna, honey, I'm so sorry.
Mom, it's fine. Ray will be there.
Anna, you sound distracted. Are you okay, baby?
Yes, Mom.
Have you met someone?
No, Mom.
Well, darling, I'll be thinking of you on Thursday. I love you. You know that, honey?
Love you too, Mom. Say hi to Bob, and I hope he gets better fast.
Will do, honey. Bye.
Bye.
I mean, obviously they had a little bit of the conversation before where she explained, but I don't know, just that whole dialogue is so bizarre, and, like, I wonder if there's something going on with her and her mom. I don't know, it just seems so awkward, or maybe
I think it's bad writing, but I could spoil a little bit if you want.
Sure.
It seems like Anastasia's stable parent was really her stepfather. So her family history or whatever is that her father was in the military or whatever, I guess probably during the Gulf War in the 90s, and maybe when she was like 3 or 4 he died overseas, and then her mother just started getting married to all these guys. Like, I think Bob is like her 4th husband, so it seems like she kind of like went off the rails a bit, and then Anastasia was like, you know, didn't really have a dad figure until the second husband, Ray. From that point of view, like, it kind of makes sense to me that, like, her mom just is trying to figure out her own shit, and Anastasia's kind of, like, left behind.
She also describes her mother's words as precious, and I wonder if that means that they are rare, or just super cute.
Super adorable. My mother's words, like a fluffy bunny.
The other thing that was funny about this conversation, that is basically the same one that they had before.
Yeah, it is. I chalk that up to bad writing.
Me too. But just, like, even down to, like, have you met someone? Like, she even asks again, like, did you meet someone? But she didn't ask, like, in a way that was, like, is this that same guy you met from before? It's just like, have you met someone? She just, like, she doesn't remember.
Remember what?
That she asked, like, that she got the same feeling.
Oh, that's even crazier. A super uncaring mom who doesn't remember things. Wowzers.
Okay, Christian's email reminding Anna to be submissive. He says, Dear Miss Steele, following my more thorough examination of your issues, may I bring to your attention the definition of submissive? Then he gives a dictionary definition of submissive, including the origin and the synonyms. And he says, please bear this in mind for our meeting on Wednesday. And then she fires back with a non... What I'm saying is that he spaced out both the meanings and the origin, and she just put it all in one big block. Probably not a big deal, but maybe she doesn't know how to properly use her computer.
Oh, you're saying she didn't format it?
Yeah,
format
didn't
text. Yeah, that's what I meant. God. She also included the definition that doesn't really apply to the situation for an endangering, especially of reputation, exposure to danger, suspicion, etc., a compromise of one's integrity. Or maybe it does have relevance to the situation, but why would she be asking for that?
I guess maybe... I mean, I don't like that, because to confuse the two meanings that she includes, and not be sure, like, ooh, which one do I want, Christian? Like, that's not cute. And that's dangerous.
This is the first time she's ever, like, used the copy-paste function. So she's like, can I delete that? I don't know. What if it deletes the whole thing?
That's probably exactly it. He says, you'd think I'd coerce you into something you don't want to do and then pretend I have a legal hold over you? And I said, no, just an emotional hold. Obviously, since, like, this, like, he's making this the only way that she can be with him.
Man, I feel like at the end of the book something happens like that. I should probably not talk about this right now. Let's move on.
Let's see. There's more wine. They drink more wine. There's so much wine. Every time Kate and Anna are together, they, like, split cheap red wine. And when she and Christian are together, they drink...
No, they don't always drink white wine.
Okay, like the 3 times they've had wine, it's been white wine.
Oh, I guess you're right. I thought that the first time they had red wine, but...
But when they were at the weird hipster deer place, I think that they just had,
They had Pinot Grigio, which is a white wine.
Oh, it is. So is it? So it is.
I mean, I guess her and Kate also drink champagne, which is a white wine.
Sort
of.
But I don't know, it's weird. They're drinking so much wine. I mean, maybe this is just me, but it sounds... Maybe it's just like, the glass a day or what seems like so much to me. A person who doesn't drink at all and has no idea of...
Here's the thing about wine drinkers. They tend to drink a lot of wine.
I mean, I definitely prefer wine over beer, but not every single day of the year.
There are people definitely that, like, drink just tons of wine. And they have, like, 2 glasses a day or something. I basically don't drink at all either. Also, the time compression for this book is weird. So, like, it seems like Kate and Anna break out the wine, like, when they're relaxing after they've done a bunch of stuff. Like, they drink wine once they're packing, like, once their finals are over. It's just that we're getting all those moments in the book, so it seems really like... I think Christian does drink a lot of wine, though. And he can, because he's rich, so...
Well, good for him. Or whatever.
I don't know. Does it seem weird to you? I guess for some reason Christian doesn't strike me as a wine drinker. Not necessarily the stereotype of a wine drinker, but it just seems like he'd probably pick something harder.
No, I think wine.
Okay.
It's very snooty-tastic.
It fits in with his, like, characterization as like a well-to-do...
However, when I would think of, like, a grown-up dominant adult, I'm going to say this word and I probably don't want to say it, daddy type situation, I would definitely think, like, scotch or whiskey. But, I mean, he's not exactly that kind of person, I guess.
When you have a romance novel, and this is closer really to a romance novel than it is anything else, do you want your man to be drinking wine, or do you want him to be drinking beer or hard liquor? Hard liquor and beer seem both a little bit too manly, not appealing to ladylike sensibilities, and so you do have to go with the wine.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that is probably true for the market. But, like, one thing I've always noticed, this has always interested me, and this is a completely separate book, in Haruki Murakami novels, like, the main characters are almost always male. For the most of his first few books, they're, like, in their 30s, like, late, mid-30s, and they all drink Cutty Sark whiskey, and... Like, in my opinion, they're, like, stereotypically male. They have a lot of the personality, affectations, and traits of being, like, sullen and aloof and drinking whiskey and smoking in, like, dark rooms by themselves. But a lot of the people that I find that have really enjoyed the Murakami books a lot tend to be women, which I thought was interesting because I always wondered if there was an identification thing. Like, I don't think they're gendered books. Like, I don't think... I
mean, because I've read those books myself. See, when I read about a guy doing things like that, I think that's kind of like an affectation. I don't think that's, like cool. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I just see that in the guy and say, like, hey, this is good characterization on Murakami's part as a writer.
Yeah, I agree.
To do that. Yeah.
I want to say that I have also listened to some Murakami audiobooks, but I can't remember anything about them because I'm a garbage person. Also, most of them were, like, young men or girls, so...
Yes.
It doesn't
so you listen to, like, After Dark and Kafka on the Shore?
Yeah.
Those are good books.
Anyways. I did include a little wine research from where else but Wikipedia, but we don't have to read it, really. It was just to say that, Sencher, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Sancerre. Sancerre, the wine that Christian selects. It's from an area with the same name. It is opposite to Poilifumé, or however you say it, which if you remember, back in episode whatever, was also a wine that Christian selected. And so it goes on to say that the two are compared a lot. Sancerre tends to have a fuller body. Poilifumé has more of a perfume, but both have a natural high acidity. The potential to exhibit the minerally flinty notes described as pierre fusil. Pierre Fusil, or gunflint. Swear to God, this has got to be some gray thing, like, oh, like flint, or like, ooh, slate. Obviously, this is maybe some cool thing that she tried to include because she thought she was being clever, and maybe she is. I don't really know.
So Christian is vehemently anti-drug, and I was wondering what he might think of Washington becoming a weed welcome zone.
I wonder too. I mean, certainly he has his reasons for being crazy anti-drug. Spoilers again, his mother was an actual crack whore, both addicted to crack and a whore.
Okay.
Wow.
Sorry, I mean, I was just trying to explain here. I'm not just saying crack whore to be funny.
No, I know. I think
things.
it's E.L. James here that I'm laughing about. Like, this is like the most stereotypical like broken home scenario. His mom was a crack whore, quote unquote. He was given up for adoption, and then he was like traumatized sexually, possibly.
Wait, was his birth mom a crack whore, or was Dr. Trevelyan?
No, his birth mom.
Damn, I was hoping it was Dr.
Yeah, I know,
Trevelyan.
that would've
She
been
just
so
made an
cool.
amazing recovery and become a
Fortunately, she
pediatrician.
never made a recovery. She just still is. Now she has the status and power to do so.
Yeah.
Crack whore, doctor. I mean, I could say more about it. Why don't we save it for the
Yeah.
spoiler dungeon, though?
Sure.
Well, anyways, I guess Christian's not 420 friendly.
Yeah, and you're right. Why doesn't he feel that way about alcohol?
Yeah.
I know. Alcohol's so dangerous. Like, geez Louise.
Everything in moderation, I guess. Whatever.
Everything but cookies.
Does look like the Mrs. Robinson situation might be being whitewashed. So he says, he's talking about, okay, why can't I touch you? Because you can't. His mouth sets in a mulish line. Is it because of Mrs. Robinson? He looks quizzically at me. Why would you think that? And immediately he understands. You think she traumatized me? I nod. No, Anastasia, she's not the reason. Besides, Mrs. Robinson wouldn't take any of that shit from me. I'm not sure what to make of this exactly. First of all, he says, no, she didn't traumatize me, but she wouldn't have taken any of that shit, like not wanting to be touched, which seems really bad. I don't know. Okay, it sounds like, maybe something happened before, like when he was much younger.
The thing in question that makes him not want to be touched happened when he was, like, 4 years old. I hate his explanation of why Mrs. Robinson can touch him and Anastasia can't. He's basically saying, like, oh, she had authority over me, and, well, you're just a sub, so I don't have to, compromise with you in any way. Like, meh.
Maybe that's okay, but I don't think it...
It would be more okay if it was just like, don't touch me because I'm your dom. But for him, it's, don't touch me because I have trauma. But the thought that Mrs. Robinson can override his trauma by also being traumatic, yeah, that I have a problem with, for sure.
So I'm wondering if this might be a bad thought to be having, but is there a situation where this wouldn't have fucked him up?
If it had been when he was over 18. I just don't know. I think that the whole thing is fucked from the beginning.
This is so difficult because, the way that age of consent varies in the states, some states it's as young as 14. And I mean, like, it's still, like, so hard to say, 18 is the cutoff for where it's suddenly not traumatizing.
When you have sexual relationships when you're young, it's usually with people who are your age. I feel like that's the most healthiest manifestation of that. Whereas, like, okay, Christian is this adopted kid. He's extremely troubled, already fucking around with drugs, he's drinking, basically. And this, like, 35-year-old woman starts, like, slapping him in the face and kissing him. Like, I think that would...
Yeah.
Okay, even if he was not... Like, let's say he was, like, 20 or something. You're still dealing with somebody who's very volatile and who needs therapy first before getting in a crazy relationship with a woman who's married, by the way.
That makes a lot of sense.
All sex is traumatizing. Never let anyone touch you.
True.
All sex is traumatized. Shut up. Hey, man. I know, I was trying to be funny, but maybe
There's always an inherent side of violence to sexual relations.
Penetration. I'm sure it's him just being like, whatever, it wasn't a big deal for me. But I also wonder if E.L. James doesn't think it's a big deal. I mean, Anna obviously thinks it's a big deal. But I don't know.
I don't know. I think she's more jealous than anything.
I don't understand if If this is a thing where Anna is making assumptions that will later turn out to be wrong, because she's dumb and naive and thinks that every BDSM situation, including an underage one, which is wrong, is bad, or if they're actually going to address that it was bad and wrong.
The way that they deal with the issue, it's like, it's not consistent. That's the most I'll say without spoiling anything. The way that they deal with it is not consistent.
Anna sexily eats asparagus. Is asparagus sexy? Picking up a spear of asparagus, I gaze at him and bite my lip. Then very slowly put the tip of my cold asparagus in my mouth and suck it.
Cold asparagus? That sounds horrible.
I mean, I would eat it, but I eat cold anything.
Yeah, I mean, eating it, sure, but, like, sucking on it, like, it's a dick. Come on.
How slowly was this conversation proceeding that her asparagus had time to grow cold?
I
don't know.
Because if you reread this section, like, it's happening over the span of a couple pages, and then, like, they're only saying a couple things to each other. Are they having, like, an hour-and-a-half conversation where they just say something every, like, 15 minutes?
Maybe the time is just going by so fast. Because they're in love.
What would be a fancy food that she could titillate him with?
Cannolis.
Nathan's hot dogs. She could eat a live octopus.
Pizza.
Christian says, I don't know any other way, Anastasia. This is who I am.
Asshole. I mean, Anastasia doesn't know any way at all, and she's learning.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is again getting into, like, he was supposedly trained this way, to be like this by Mrs. Robinson. So should he keep doing that? Is that just sort of continuing the cycle of abuse? I mean, not really, because she's doing it consensually, but still, I don't know. It's not making any... I mean, I guess it's an effort at self-care, but...
I agree. It's not the right way to do it. I think, like, say, full stop, this is who I am, how I am, like, and not to be able to try anything, like, he's being a big hypocrite. He's asking Anastasia to do something that, you know, she's obviously a little bit scared of and, like, is not sure about.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's wrong.
I noted this down, too, that he's unwilling to, like... He's like, I can't do anything else, and he's like, but you've got to do this. If you think about it, and this is a little disturbing, he's basically trying to do to Anna what was done to him. Because this is her first relationship. She'd never had sex before. But it's not the same because of the trauma stuff, like with his childhood. Also, she's over 18. It's a similar situation where...
This is fucked up of me to say, but do you think that Mrs. Robinson was drawn to him because of his vulnerability?
Probably.
Then it kind of is the same situation, regardless of whether that's true.
I think the main difference, though, is that he's really giving Anastasia a chance to not do it. Like, I don't think he thinks it's a bad idea necessarily, even though he said that several times at the beginning of the book. He's still trying to negotiate this contract and, like, get her to like, admit to what she likes or what she might want and, like, give her some knowledge. Like, I think it's probably a different situation in that regard than what he went through, but it's still basically the dynamic, I think, is set up the same way.
I don't know if we want to talk about Anna's car again, but Christian basically freaks out. It's like, you drive this? Oh, we can do better than this. I know from things I've heard before that he does buy her a new car.
Indeed.
And I did a lot of research about Volkswagen Beetles and, like, because I was trying to figure out if she had, like, an old Beetle or the new VW Bug. It sounds like she probably has an old one, but it would be pretty funny if she had, like, the new one and he was just like, ugh!
This piece of shit.
Ew, I hate this.
Yeah.
Nah, it's just, he's like, what? We can't do better than this? Yeah, Anna's just deluded again. And then later, when Christian buys her a car, it's the Batmobile from the 1960s Batman show.
Okay, this is again me being an emotionless husk, but, like, I'm wondering what more she wants out of the email. He sounds like he's being genuine when he says, I don't understand why you ran away this evening. I sincerely hope I answered all your questions to your satisfaction. I know I have given you a great deal to contemplate, and I fervently hope that you will give my proposal your serious consideration. I really want to make this work. We will take it slow. That sounds reassuring to me, sort of. Okay, does he want her to say something like, I love you? Which is way too soon for that. She compares it to a merger or a business acquisition.
I think that first line, like, I don't know why you ran away this evening, like, it sounds really accusatory and, like, weird, like, to say, like, somebody ran away, like, if anything, she's just staying, like, a discreet individual and not letting her get all overridden by Christian saying, like, dude, stay and let's fuck, like, you know?
Yeah. Maybe it's just her being down on herself, but, like, it's been made very clear that, like, she is an exception to many of his rules. He keeps saying that he can't stay away from her. He compliments her beauty all the time. I guess it does sort of sound like maybe it's only sexual, but I feel like the way they talk, it's supposed to evoke that there is something deeper than just a sexual relationship, like with their, banter and stuff, which is meant to be, clever.
Indication of attraction, not just like, lust or whatever, but like...
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe she's just like not seeing it or something. I don't know.
Possible.
Probably she goes to bed curled up in his jacket, which is weird.
Why is it weird?
I don't know. She's like, I can't have him.
Yeah, it's a little bit... It's too sad.
Yeah.
This guy I just met... that's something you do when you, like, lose...
Yeah, she's sort of talked herself into, like, oh, maybe this is the breakup, even though he's, like, clearly wants to keep seeing her. But maybe she should be doing that, since, like, he's dangerous.
He's dangerous! Yeah.
Alright, I'm done.
Oh, yeah, and I know it's, like, her mom's, like, fourth husband, and they're not really that friendly or whatever, but Anna doesn't even talk to Bob on the phone to just, like, see how he is.
Maybe she does. Maybe it was glossed over.
No, she says to her mom, tell Bob, like, say hi, like, and then they hang up.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's
sort of jerkish. Even, I understand, like, maybe she doesn't think he'll be around that long or whatever, but, he got hurt. Small gripe. Page 209 about, she was just being, like, mopey about Christian or something. I don't remember exactly. So finally she gets this email from Christian, which is about his definition of a submissive, like, well, you're supposed to be submissive. And her first line is, my initial feeling is one of relief. I don't think that'd be, like, my initial reaction, just getting an email like that, which is, like, really condescending.
Sounds like he's saying, I've looked at your issues, but come on, you're the submissive, so you have to do whatever I say. It almost sounds like he's saying they're non-negotiable.
Yeah, in some ways, I guess that's a fair point, but they are supposed to be negotiating, and she's not in the contract yet. For that to be the way that he does it, just to send her a definition, like, I would just be like, wow, you're an asshole. Then, like, in the email... This is the reason I didn't put it in wording. I actually meant, like, just him saying it at all doesn't make any sense. In Anna's response email, where she gives the definition of compromise, she makes a note of the date of the origin of the word submissive, as far as people know, which is 1580, possibly 1590, between then. And she goes on to say, I would respectfully remind, sir, that the year is 2011. We have come a long way since then. Which, I guess, if you're a certain type of person, that seems like a retort, but it doesn't matter when the word was first used.
No, because we use words that are old all the time.
Exactly, all the words we use are extremely old most of the time. For example, sometimes we use the word robot, which is actually pretty old. It's from like the 1900s, so the turn of the century. It's from a Czech word.
But what about the word compromise? Surely that's a pretty old word itself. And then he might say, like, note the date of origin, idiot bitch. It's also very old.
Compromise was first invented in the 1200s. It's of Germanic origin, and so why would we still be using it the same way? It's 20. That's like it's non-argument. Like she's not making a real argument, and that's why I thought it was really stupid. And then we make new words, but that's not the majority of the words are. So on the same page, 209, Christian responds with, good point, well made as ever, Miss Steele. Was it really a good point? Did she really make it well?
No! He always says that.
Yeah, he always just gives in after one thing because he's like, ugh, God. Fine, yes, it was good. Good job, Miss Steele. Pages 211 to 212, they're back and forth, the emails there. Like, they're sending one-line responses to each other. Like, Christian's last email is that he says that he's welcome. When I just think that's stupid. Like, some people use email that way, but Christian is apparently using his actual, like, work account, or at least all of his email programs are set up to link to his work email. So he's just wasting a lot of time doing that. Do you guys write one word or one sentence emails to people you know often this way?
Only to be funny.
Yeah, I'm especially if I don't want to talk to them.
She's trying to set it up. James is trying to set it up like it's basically like they're IMing each other, because she's like, oh, it's an instant reply.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Email. But it's also supposed to have that wrinkle of like, oh, it's email, so it could be at any time, but it's instant. Okay, 212. No, you don't. You're just saying that to avoid me. You're always avoiding me. This is Peter.
His name is Paul.
Fuck Paul. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Fuck Paul.
One of the apostles. Paul is like talking to Anna, trying to convince him to have a date, and she's like, nope, I have a date already, and I don't want to date you anyway. So he presses her. He's like, you have a date? No, you don't have a date. Like, you don't have a date. You're just saying that to avoid me because you're always trying to avoid me, which is really fucked up. He should just fucking give up. Like, stop being an asshole. All the guys around Anastasia are apparently huge assholes.
I have to just throw this in, that any guy should accept no for an answer, not on the premise that there's another man around, but that the woman he's asking has free will and can say no to him because she doesn't like him.
Exactly. Yeah. She doesn't need to give a reason.
If the answer is no, the answer is no. Like that's actually something that really bugs me, and I'm sure every other lady, that you have to introduce the threat of another man to get the other dudes to leave you alone.
That's like exactly the thing that I bring up with my next point. Like on the next page, like he presses her like, well, who are you dating then? And like that's not any of his business. She doesn't have to answer, but then she does anyway. I guess she's doing it to get him off her back, but also I think she should have just had some resolve and just been like, I don't fucking tell you.
But she's a natural submissive. She can't. Blah, blah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still just surprised that she decided to tell him. Continuing, I have a bunch of stuff about this. She is talking about, and this is a point not in his favor, but against Anna, where she says that like he's like surprised that she's dating Christian Grey, and she says in her internal monologue, a very small part of me resents that he should find this a surprise. Isn't it surprising? Like if she told her mom, like, I'm dating Christian Grey, multi-billionaire CEO, she'd probably be surprised. She's saying like he's shocked that she's dating this guy, like she's never dated anybody before, ever. Suddenly she's dating multi-billionaire CEO.
It is a very small part of her that resents it. In a way, it's like saying, like, what? Like, I'm not worth, like, a good dude? That's how maybe it should be read.
Yeah, that's fair. I got that. I just thought that, like, I was overestimating her, the part of her that resented it. Back to Anna's technophobia, where she's trying to put on her makeup, and she's like, I don't know anything about makeup. None of my literary heroines ever wore makeup.
It's probably not true.
Yeah, it's not true. Because almost all the things that she's mentioned are from, like, the Edwardian or Victorian era. And later she mentions Pride and Prejudice, she mentions Jane Eyre, she's mentioned Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Although Tess of the D'Urbervilles is not from that time period, or it's not set in that time period. If she really feels like she needs to make herself up, she could just use the internet to look up a tutorial, probably. Or, you know, ask Kate.
Those are kind
she doesn't
of
have to do it herself.
Yeah, Kate. She should ask Kate.
So we can assume that she just shows up to the date with Christian just completely made up in a terrible way. Like, she's put eyeliner all over her nose, like lip gloss for eyeshadow.
Juggalo makeup. She's like, yo, Christian, are you down with the clown, Christian?
Page 215, when Anna sits down with Christian, is like, I'll have what he's having. See, I can play nice and behave myself. Like, that. What?
What?
Because she's not ordering for herself and not being independent. Like she was when she tried to order a Diet
Well,
Coke.
then she should have just let Christian make the order rather than her saying anything. She should just be quiet.
Why can't she just have a Diet Coke? What is so wrong about that?
Maybe Christian thinks it'll give her cancer.
Maybe.
That's bad for your kidneys, Anna. Don't drink that. But then why would you drink wine? Because that's arguably just as bad for you. You know, just in terms of liver health or whatever,
It's heart healthy.
apparently.
Okay, and then on the same page, my eyes linger on his mouth. That mouth that's been on me. All parts of me. I flush. And, like, I wrote that, like, Anna has a problem compartmentalizing because she's really focused on his mouth while they're having dinner. Whatever. That sort of thing would happen. But I still think that it shouldn't have come up.
You look at some dude's mouth going like... Like, that's not really that sexy, honestly.
He was eating, what, like an olive or something? Or a grape? I don't remember. Chomping down on some food, and she's like, it's been all over me. And then 218, when they finally start going over the contract, Anna's like, we're going to go through each of these points one at a time. Go. What was she expecting? It was a negotiation dinner.
That's pretty much what she wanted.
Yeah, she gave an itemized list of her like concerns and considerations, and Christian's like, all right, let's meet to discuss this. And she's like, we're going to talk about all this one point at a time?
No way!
Same page. She says, if I go, that's it. The thought is surprisingly painful. And I was curious about this. Given the circumstances and the actual like nature of their relationship at this point in time, do any of us think that something like this would be that painful?
Yes, but for different reasons. Because to have to deal with, like, the weird psychological stuff you have to go through as a result of sort of, like, pushing your boundaries and then having somebody leave you because you can't push them enough, sort of will make you, like, doubt
that's a
yourself
good
and
point.
stuff. Yeah.
Cherrydoom, any thoughts?
I agree. I think that any time you break up, it's painful. Almost any time, unless you're me, but it's a relief.
Sometimes it's both.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the oyster eating description. Like, I thought it was stupid. Like, I got it that it was supposed to be titillating and like heavily sexualized, but I just thought it was silly. She's describing someone eating an oyster.
Yeah, pretty disgusting. I mean, I hate oysters.
I will not eat a raw oyster.
I'll eat a fried oyster sandwich like you can get in New Orleans. Those are good. Oyster po' boy.
Yeah, I'll eat a cooked oyster.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
fine. Yeah.
Delicious.
One time I had a cooked oyster and a deer tried to steal it from me.
That's rude.
It was extremely rude. Page 230, the final email. Like, the whole book has been setting up this like classic stereotypical calculating, logical man versus raw, pure, emotional woman. And this email, I think, really typifies that. Like, it exemplifies it extremely well. Where Christian's like, I don't understand why you ran out. Not that I don't think he's being sort of reassuring with the rest of the email, but I guess also tied to his gentlemanliness, where he's just extremely subdued, and like, it's not a good way to set up relationships between men and women this way. Yeah, people, men and women, this sort of thing. It's not always how the dynamic works between people and relationships in any sort of relationship. So
to try and get away from it too much, or to try to portray a perspective that you really aren't qualified to portray, like, I wonder about that. So, like, maybe she was like, all right, here's what I know, like, a cool man and a raw woman. I don't know.
There's a bunch of, I think, aspects to why this is the way that it is. Just all the conditioning from, like, years of socialization in Western culture, because that's sort of the dynamic that's always been presented, unless it's like a act first, think later, sort of like action hero man. But this sort of like recent, like, intellectual, you know, urban man thing is like cool, calculating, logical.
Urban man.
Women have always been portrayed stereotypically as being extremely emotional, to the point of sometimes they can't control themselves because of their emotions. E.L. James's background research for writing this book was Twilight and possibly other fan fiction or like romance literature, which are not exactly bastions of progressive like views on people. So.
Well, it depends on what kind of romance literature you're reading, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you think that she searched out particularly like good literature? I mean, she was writing Twilight fan fiction.
If you choose to acknowledge and read that which is also there, like, for instance, if we look at like Cherrydoom, for example, like, let's just compare her and E.L. James, the type of erotica that she reads is probably not the same. And like, okay, I'm not trying to say that it's more forward thinking, but certainly it's not like the classic like man woman like each other.
The problem with a lot of romance novels, especially those written by women, is that one of the men falls into a more female role.
Oh, I see.
Where they are usually the one that is whose perspective it is from, where they are the bottom, and they are, you know, the one that is like constantly second guessing things and like wondering and like, you know, what is this feeling? What's going on? Oh, I think it's socialization where they still or they think that, you know, this is how relationships go. One person needs to be this way. That's especially true in yaoi, the Japanese gay porn for women.
There's like the little baby yaoi child, and then there's like the giant senpai. Terrible
just a
guy.
Massive hand descending from the clouds.
Yeah, giant Dorito hands.
And that's extremely different from the manga that's meant for gay men, where like everybody's super muscly and hairy.
Yeah, everybody's bar and everybody's fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot less on the emotional relationships, and it's more like, oh, I can see my neighbor jerking off through the wall. I'm gonna go over there and fuck him. Rather than, you know, like, oh, you saved my life. I almost got run over by a car. I don't know if it is socialization or just like...
Again, I'm not trying to date on, like, you know, fan fiction and romance literature, but there is still the problem with also just genre expectations. Part of the reason that the genre has developed the way it is because probably, like, you know, writing in things that you've been socialized to think. A lot of people are probably writing from somewhat of a sincere place.
Alright, Kate's alright.
Not according to Chad.
Well, he hates her for obvious reasons.
Why?
Because she's a jerk, but I think that she's great anyways.
Why is she a jerk is what I'm trying to ask.
Why do you guys think that she's great?
I think she's great compared to Anastasia. I think Chad thinks she's a jerk because she's not a very supportive friend, because she's more focused on herself.
I feel like she exists only to react to Anna and be a foil or something for her. A little bit, or, you know, a comparison. So maybe she is a little bit of a jerk. But I mean, she seems more interesting to me. Like, just,
same.
She's a sexy lady, dancing and drinking, doing what she wants.
Yeah.
Fucking dudes.
Okay, so I think Kate is okay, like, overall, and is a better character than Anastasia just because she isn't in the book as much, so it's harder for us to dissect why she's terrible. But the line that really annoyed me was, she's talking to Anastasia right before Anastasia goes to the Heathman. Yeah, Anna says, wish me luck. Kate says, you need luck for a date. I know that she didn't mean it to be like, what do you need luck for? Like, in a snippy way. I think that that's probably what what you say here, Chuuurls, is what Kate is thinking. Like, oh, she's already got Christian wrapped around her finger.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it does sort of sound like, what, you need luck for dates? What's wrong with you? Like, you don't need luck for dates. Dates are easy.
It's really hard for me to construe that in any way that isn't just confused. Like, why do you need luck? Like, did you guys already have a bunch of sex?
I think that's my immediate thought. But I mean, yeah, it is kind of funny to read.
Anyway, Kate's a jerk.
Kate does more lending. She gives Anna 2 dresses, and then she says that she's so hot in the purple dress that she can keep it.
Oh my god.
She's like, Anna, you're the total package, a total babe.
Yeah, and Anna seems to get a little uncomfortable. She's like, Kate! And then Kate's just like, I'm just keeping it real. Okay, and that makes me think, come on, Kate has got to be bisexual. There's no way she's not. I'm just saying.
I think girls do this all the time to each other.
Yeah, maybe they do, but maybe
they're all bisexual.
Whatever. I can't comment on this. The way that she also has a relationship with Anna, aside from telling her that she's hot, is like, yeah, I think there's a vibe. I just say.
She says that the plum dress suits Anna's coloring. And I'm asking Chuuurls, is this correct?
Yeah, kind of. Alright, well, Chuuurls Fashion Corner time. This is a good outfit for Anastasia's color. I wouldn't say it's, like, heart-stoppingly stunning, the best color combination ever, but, like, yeah, it doesn't clash with your skin or hair or anything. Yeah, it's pretty good. But on the other hand, it is not good for Kate, really. I mean, depending on how you feel in these current fashion times. If Kate has kind of a carroty hair color, which she does, like strawberry blonde-ish, then purple is not one of those colors that ginger-ish or redhead-ish people should wear. So that could be why she's palming the dress off on Anna, because she feels bad about being a redhead and is like, oh god, why'd I buy this dress? I guess I had a comment on the shoes, which is like, they're okay. I don't really like the pointy toe of a stiletto. I feel like that's like, meh.
I hate pointy toe shoes. They're the worst. Make you look like a witch.
Yeah, a witch.
Maybe Kate's just been secretly buying clothes for years to give to Anna, just waiting.
Okay, Anna makes mention that maybe she should have brought Kate's digital recorder so that she could record Christian's saying things so she could go over it later. My head is swimming with all his words. I should have brought Kate's digital recorder so I can listen to this again later. There's so much information, so much to process. Does Anna have anything of her own?
No.
Who knows? Well, presumably she has things of her own, but I think it's just supposed to be a callback to the interview. Like,
yeah, I totally missed that. Favorite line?
You're the only person. Sorry.
Yeah, this chapter didn't have much.
They're talking about food again and how Anna's not eating. Christian says 3 oysters, 4 bites of cod, and 1 asparagus stalk. No potatoes, no nuts, no olives, and you've not eaten all day. Americant, by the way, on the you've not eaten. I just like this list of everything that has been, he even included the olives and nuts, which I would not count as food in the first place.
Appetizer.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny.
Should we start on the goddess watch?
Sure.
Let's watch that goddess. Well, first of all, I have to talk about the subconscious whenever this comes up. My subconscious taps me hard on the shoulder. You must keep your wits about you. Don't drink too much. It was a very Dumbledorian warning, in my opinion, especially given the Half-Blood Prince, where he has to drink the horrible juice and die. Also, the subconscious is probably trying to toughen up Anna to resist the goddess, and insurrection is dangerous. Anna's personal safety could be more at stake than ever. And then, for the goddess herself, my inner goddess frowns at me. You can do this, she coaxes. Play this sex god at his own game. And Anna goes, can I? Okay. Her personal safety, she's trying to fucking battle this sex god that perhaps exists in Christian, and the subconscious is trying to get her to resist the goddess. Like, man, that's dangerous.
I have a question somebody asked.
Okay.
You've observed the so-called inner goddess for weeks now, but you haven't concerned yourself with several potentially troubling aspects of her. What is she the goddess of, and how did she end up inside Anna? Well, we've talked about how she ended up inside Anna, which I've theorized Christian implanted in her with their first kiss. It is interesting that we haven't talked at all about what she's the goddess of.
She's the goddess of Anna's vagina.
Does one vagina need a whole goddess, though?
I thought you were going to say something else. Does one vagina need a hole? No, it doesn't, but apparently because Christian is a sex god and the godly splinter has broken off in Anna, then, that's how it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The inner goddess, quote, makes a very vulgar and unattractive gesture at Paul with her fingers. This is when Paul is questioning her date-havingness. And so what is the gesture? I vote the penis and vagina. You make a circle with one hand and put your index finger through with the other and thrust.
That's probably the most likely. I say that she does the thing where you curl up your fingers and it spells the word bloods. Do you know how to do that? It's actually pretty hard.
It is. I never know if I'm doing it backwards.
I'm also not sure.
But I can do it. But yeah,
Use
it's
both your
backwards.
hands, right? I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it.
There we go. I can do it.
Blood.
She's probably just like wiggling her fingers around and gesticulating wildly.
That's not vulgar. I mean, I guess it could be vulgar in the sense of indelicate, or not indelicate, but inarticulate.
My second guess is that she does the thing where you put a peace sign up on your mouth and then you go, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty vulgar and unattractive, apparently.
I think we know what gesture she's probably making, right? And it's a Britishism.
Oh, the peace sign?
Yeah, two
backwards
fingers.
peace sign.
Yeah.
Backwards
Sort of.
peace sign.
If you make the peace sign and you turn your knuckles out so that your knuckles are facing the person, then that is super rude.
Question for our British/English/whatever listeners. Do you still do that? Is that like a thing that you do? Is that real? I mean, of course it's real, but like...
Xenophobic Chuuurls. Is this thing real? Is this thing real? Dialects, are they real? Is this... Why are dialects so hard to understand?
Chad's put me in the trash zone. He's fucking... That's alright. But no, I am really curious, so please tell me on Twitter. At Chuuurls.
Please send us pictures.
Send us pics.
Oh, that'd be great.
All of our British listeners, please just gesture at us.
Please insult us heavily with your hands.
So, it seems to me that at the end of the chapter, Anna is acting against the goddess's wishes. Because she's running away. Like, Christian's like, let's have sex in this room. On our, like, oysters and cod. She's like, no, I'm leaving. Do you think this makes the goddess, like, she's acting against the goddess's wishes? Because the goddess wants her to get it on with Christian. So does this mean that the goddess is less of a threat because she's ignored the goddess and the goddess's influence is lessening? Or is she possibly more of a threat because she could retaliate for this, this affront?
I actually think that it's less of a threat.
Me too. I think that Anna's building up resistance. She's finally, thinking for herself a little more.
They finally found a vaccine for the goddess.
At least for now, she's able to resist because she's, like, feeling cautious about Christian, which is a good thing.
So it's been a dangerous gunmetal... No, that was last week. I forget what we did for...
I also forget what we did. Whatever we did last week, it doesn't matter anymore because we're lowering the level. I think it should actually be cooked sausage gray.
Like...
Okay, well, when you cook a pork sausage and, like, in the middle, it's not supposed to be really pink unless you're crazy. It's just supposed to be gray.
Oh, you're right.
Because then it's not dangerous anymore if you eat it.
Okay, yeah.
That's
good.
Cooked sausage gray. That's the level.
So what was good? Anna seems to be a little more aware of the problems with the relationship in this chapter. She does mention that Christian uses sex as a weapon, which is very true. Like he did when he fucking busted in Anna's room and fucked her last chapter. And have we misjudged the romanticizing of a problematic relationship?
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Or maybe this will just be... I also sort of think maybe this is just like adding complications so that we, the readers, can be like, how are these two crazy kids gonna get together? I'd like that they did address that, and I wondered if maybe we were being a little too harsh. Especially since, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the stuff in this genre would have very similar type situations of coercion, bodice stripping, and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree with Cherrydoom. That was what I was going to list, so...
I mean, I think earlier in the situation, I was definitely very much saying, like, we should keep our heads together about this stuff. What I thought was good was relationships with her parents, although it was hastily done and didn't really imply anything that was really well thought out, as we saw with the mom conversations. I mean, in terms of how the writing went, I did think it was sort of true to life, how she had all these different, like, family bonds. I think there's a lot of protagonists with, like, dead or gone moms or dads, or, like, you only have one mom or one dad. I think it was still fairly accurate, because those spaces, like, when you're, when your parents get divorced, or if your father dies or whatever, it gets filled up when you're a child by, like, step-parents and stuff, or, like, your aunts and uncles or whatever. My own family is pretty mixed up from divorces, and so, like, it was sort of nice to have a work of media not say, like, all right, here's a nuclear perfect family. I think it's really more true to life now, because more people get divorced and stuff.
A safe word? Okay, so Christian gives this big speech about why being a submissive is good. He says, all those decisions, all the wearying thought processes behind them, is this the right thing to do? Should this happen here? Can it happen now? You wouldn't have to worry about any of that detail. That's what I'd do as your dom. And right now, I know you want me, Anastasia. I can tell because your body gives you away. This is sort of classic victim-blaming type of thing. It's not quite that serious, but to say your body is giving you away, I know you want me, is kind of shitty. I mean, a person can be like sexually aroused physiologically and still not want to do something. I mean, that's basically the whole argument behind underage statutory rape. sort of. And it's very, I see it a lot in Japanese dubious consent stuff where, like, you know, they'll say, look how your body reacts.
Right.
It's a very common line, I feel like, and I don't know, it just kind of skews me out a little bit.
I think, I don't really, what am I trying to say here? I think that if this is in erotic or whatever, there are times when it is wrong, but I think there are also times when it's not wrong.
Right, I mean, it could still be like a fantasy.
Exactly, like, but there has to be some acknowledgement of that fantasy. Like, if you do it in real life, you do it within the boundaries of a scene with someone else, or
right.
If you're reading erotica, you have creator acknowledgement. They say, this is dubious consent, this is non-consent, don't do it in real life, it's fantasy. And in that case, it's more, so don't feel bad if you like that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. This is, again, sort of the thing where I was saying where they're presenting this as two different things. A thing where, you know, it's fantasy, but it's also a real BDSM relationship, where you would have scenes. So it's it's strange to present both a thing where they would be doing scenes with total consent, signed contracts, and then also have this stuff where
he runs in her bedroom and Can I go ahead?
Of course.
Here is my quote. It's something that Christian says. I could make you stay, he threatens. Yes, you could easily, says Anastasia, but I don't want you to. He runs his hand through his hair, regarding me carefully. You know, when you fell into my office to interview me, you were all, yes, sir, no, sir. I thought you were a natural-born submissive. But quite frankly, Anastasia, I'm not sure you have a submissive bone in your delectable body. He moves slowly towards me as he speaks, his voice tense. Okay, so I saw this was reverse psychology, obviously. What else could it be but that? He's pretending that he doubts her so that she will want to prove herself harder, because he's thinking that she actually does have a pretty submissive mindset. And so I think that if you're a dom and you say this to a sub, they're like, eh!
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not speaking as a dom or anything, by the way. It's speaking closer to the other end of the thing. I think that's true. If you say, like, I don't think that you want to please me, then the other person's going to be like, oh, that's not true. Yes, I do. This kind of manipulation, like, it really freaks me out, especially when he's saying, I could make you stay, like... She hasn't signed anything. Please don't do this stuff yet, Christian. Spoiler dungeon if you have anything.
So I've read a little bit in the wiki about, because I was trying to figure out what the deal with Mrs. Robinson was, trying to figure out if they did wash it. Sounds like she, like, sort of comes back and maybe tries to get him back.
Alright, this is pretty heavy spoilers, by the way, so if you are listening to this and you don't want to have spoilers in the spoiler dungeon, I suggest you skip about a minute ahead or something like that. So in the third book, Anastasia's having a baby with Christian, and he kind of runs away because he's not ready for the responsibility of being a father. And he goes to Mrs. Robinson, who he had previously... They had, like, this big revelation where she's like, yeah, that's right! When Christian and Anastasia announced their engagement, like... I fucking fucked him and I hit him and you'll never be good enough. And, like, his mother overhears and comes in and is like,
oh shit,
get the fuck out of here. So after that, they kind of have broken it off. But then after Christian finds out Anastasia's pregnant, he runs away. And then he hangs out with this lady, Elena, Mrs. Robinson. It explains, like, oh yeah, like, I don't know how I feel. This is really weird, blah, blah, blah. And then she tries to, like, re-seduce him and he's like, no!
What happened to him when he was 4 that he doesn't want to be touched?
Alright, when he was 4, the thing that made him not want to be touched was that his bio mom's pimp came in the house and was basically using little baby Christian as an ashtray. And, like, I mean, I already said this in some other spoiler dungeon. He puts out his cigarettes on Christian's chest. And just also, I guess, I don't really think that there were other things. I sort of meta-read it as saying, like, maybe he was, like, inappropriately touched or something. He doesn't seem to have any problems with his dick, so I don't know. I mean, is that rude? I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. So there's that aspect of the abuse. And by the way that he gets adopted is that his mom, I think that she possibly ODs or something like that. And they get locked in the house, and, like, he's 4 and doesn't really know what to do, and is, like, starving, basically.
Okay.
And so they find, like, the dead mom and the baby.
Jesus, this is, like, overly tragic.
It's really sad.
Did you guys ever hear about that case where that had happened to a little girl? It wasn't that the mom had overdosed, but, like, she died in her sleep of, like a heart attack or something, and then this, like, 5-year-old was trapped in the house by herself, and she was there for 3 days, but she managed to, like, there was, like, mac and cheese or something left over in the fridge. She managed to, like, get a step stool and get it out and, like, heat it up for herself over the course of the day so she didn't starve to death.
Oh, man.
That's really sad.
It was incredibly sad. And on that note...
What a downer.
What a fucking downer.
Laters, baby.
Laters.
Laters, baby.